Today is Thursday the 24th, and I have 4 more days left of my vacation. I haven't done any training since the powerlifting meet, which was Saturday, and I think today I'm going to do some training. I'm either going to do some light lifting, or I'm going to go train boxing with the kids after school, or maybe even both. But I have this pile of shame on my workbench, and these Salamanders Outriders have been staring at me for months. I started them months ago. You know what? Today's the day we finish them. Now, for all you guys that are interested in the painting technique, I did the bulk of the work using these awesome metallic markers. Well, I have full marker sets that they're acrylic markers. You can buy them at any craft store. I believe I got mine at Hobby Lobby. They're a little bit on the expensive side, but they're definitely worth it for the convenience factor. And they're, honestly, I still think they're cheaper than Citadel paint. I've watched a ton of paint tutorials on YouTube, and to my knowledge, I am the only one that's using these markers. Now, I don't just exclusively use them. The problem with them is the tips, depending on the tip size, it's hard to get to the recesses. So sometimes what I'll have to do is pull the marker in like a little paint dish or whatever, kind of tap the tip of it until it pulls a little bit of ink up, and then use a paintbrush. To do a traditional style. The issue with it is that these markers use some kind of a thinner that's not water-based, so they dry really fast. So you don't have a whole lot of time to act with them. But the cool thing is they dry really fast. So if you're coloring over it and you don't get a good coat, you just wait a minute and you just go right over it again. So it makes doing base colors super, super easy. And, if you're like me and you don't necessarily have the... as we get older, our eyesight gets a little worse, and our, the fine micro skills, like, I used to be able, I still do work with, like, circuitry and soldering irons, and I do pretty intricate work, but let's face it, it's getting a little bit harder to get those really, really tiny details without the fingers shaking just a tiny little bit. So, any advantage I can use. This paintbrush I'm using is it's a Zen lineup from Royal and Lang Nickel, and these are fairly expensive paintbrushes, but you don't really need to spend a whole lot of money on acrylic paints. For the most part, you can buy those from $5 to $10 cheap paintbrush sets, and those will do the bulk of your work. But it's always good to have some rather expensive, like 0 to 20 finer paints. You want to get those details in. Essentially, like if you're trying to do like eyeballs or really intricate work, you want bristles that will well the ink, if you will. So it's like when you water the ink down a little bit, or the acrylic paint, it will well inside of the paintbrush, and those cheaper plastic bristle ones, that doesn't do very well with that. So it just depends on what kind of work you're trying to do. And of course, this is my anecdotal experience. I've noticed that you can watch a dozen paint tutorials, and you have a dozen different artists that do it a dozen different ways. And my way, I call it I guess, if anything, I have a system that pretty much anybody can do. I basically, like I said, I prime them. And, I like to use what's called the Seneco, where you prime them black and then dust them with white so that the details stand out. And then I'll color in all my base colors flat. Red is red. I don't do any highlighting or toning. I just get all of my base colors. And then I'll go over the model with a dark wash. Sometimes I'll use, like on the mechanical stuff, I'll use a black wash. On the skin, I'll use a skin tone. I have about a dozen different washes. I found that flesh wash works really good on gold to kind of give it that weathered look. And you can find washes that suit your style. Once I have it washed, which is the recesses are darkened to my liking, then I'll go in with a lighter color and I'll start my shading, which is basically whatever. If you have a dark green, I'll go over it with a light green. And it's usually like a dry brush method for the most part. Not always, but often I find that I use the dry brush technique quite a bit. And then once I get that done, I do my edge highlighting. Now this is what I call tabletop plus, meaning I wouldn't enter these in any kind of a show, but they still look better than what you would find on a standard tabletop. It's kind of splitting the difference between getting something that you can be proud of to display, where people will look at it and go, hey man, that's pretty awesome, and it doesn't take you 9 years, to paint an army. If I was when I painted Vulkan, I purposely did as good a job as I could, and he took me 7 or 8 hours of painting time to finish. Well, if you're trying to get an army on the board and you've got 20, 30, 40 pieces to paint, and you want it to look somewhat decent, you're going to spend 3-4 weeks painting it, and then most people are just going to get bored with that process and give up, unless you specifically love the painting, which I do. You're going to get bored of that really fast, and then one of two things is either going to happen. You're either not going to be happy with what you're looking at, you're going to get bored and you're going to quit, or your work's going to start getting sloppy. That's three things. Now, if you want to use the ultimate cheat code, you could just go on Etsy and commission an artist, box up your army, send it to one of those kids. He'll negotiate a price and determine the level of paint job you want. Now, I'll say this. Professionally painted pieces can go for hundreds of dollars. The cool thing about Warhammer figurines, people, is they are an investment. They do not lose money. They make money. If you have a reasonably painted army, you can resell that on eBay or Etsy for 3 times what you paid for it. There are guys that make a living just painting figurines for people. And some of the higher end artists who commission pieces for hundreds of dollars. People are willing to pay thousands of dollars for professionally painted pieces. Now, if I had more time, and I'm going to do one piece. I'm going to do a fire drake. It's like basically a dragon with a salamander. And I'm going to do it to the utmost of my ability. I'm going to break out all my skills and do it professionally. I'm going to take the time to do all the shading and everything. It's probably going to take me a week to paint it. But then I will put it side by side with what I call Tabletop Plus, and you guys will see, holy crap, that looks way better. But in order to get it to look way better, it takes way more time. It took me a long time to paint these Outriders. They've been sitting on my workbench for months, and the reason why is because after I bought 2 squads of them, I found that the style I wanted to play, which is Flamer unit heavy, I can't use them. I mean, you can use them, but tactically it doesn't really give me an advantage. As long as I have some kind of a transport to mobilize my heavy flame units to where I can get them into action really quickly. The Salamanders lean heavily towards holding objectives, and then of course using flame weapons, which are kind of close range. Having units like the Outriders, which are mobile, fast, they don't really serve the Salamander's current style of play in edition 10, as far as I can tell. But what I'd like to do is maybe do a bigger game, like a 5,000 point game, where I just roll everything out and what you see is what you get. When I play locally, if you have, the way we like to play is not codex compliant, I guess you could say. Like, what you've got some special units, like you want to bust a Primarch out, we'll go dig up the data sheet on them from Horus Heresy, and let's do it. Let's throw them in there. We'll figure out a way for you to play with, if you have, what do we call it, proxy models from Etsy. This is a knight. It could also be a dreadnought. It splits the difference in size between a dreadnought and a knight. The original dreadnoughts, they're little boxy boys. They were not much bigger than the current Marines are now. I have one painted in there, and he's tiny. But compared to this guy, it's like, how would you? I don't know how you would with a 5-pound. How would you deploy knights? I know I've seen games where they do it, but I've never done it myself. But essentially what I'm saying is I envision like this grand battle where everybody just brings their collections, and you can mix your armies up. I don't even care. They do it with Chaos all the time. Just have this. You bring your collection, I'll bring mine, and we'll line them up and kind of even things out of a little. It's like, you know, if you got something that's massively overpowered and is going to be a huge advantage and it's not even worth playing, obviously we'll take that off the table, and, you know, we'll figure out a way to balance things out, and we'll just have some fun, you know. That's the way I like to do it. I also really like the kill team style of play, the small skirmish stuff, 6-on-6, that kind of thing. That's really fun, especially with the kids. If you want to get your kids into wargaming, the way I found is that even though they love the aesthetics of having all of your pieces on the table, they don't have the attention span for it. So if you can keep your games to 45 minutes or less, that's what I found will keep the kids engaged. And of course, they love painting the models with Dad, so that's something the whole family can do together. My wife is an artist, and she does oil painting, and I'm trying to convince her to paint some miniatures to see if if I can. Wow, honey, that's way better than mine. You want to do some more? Here you go. I'm sure they would be better than mine. So while I'm painting these, I figured this would be a good time to do some updates. I got a lot going on. Now that I'm done with this competition, I still don't know what's going on in October. Nobody's reached out to me yet. I did reach out to the WRPF and sent them an email just to see what's going on. They have yet to respond to me, so I have no idea what's going on. Asked the USPA organization, like, hey, what's up with this, all this hush hush stuff? You know, I guess, you know, like I was saying in the previous video, there's some legal stuff going on where this is what I got from it. Somebody in the WRPF organization decided to start their own federation, but they did it really clandestine, hush-hush-like, and they poached a bunch of people from a bunch of different places. And I'm assuming that includes stealing, like, high-end athletes, maybe, or getting, you know, you have to, if you're going to start your own federation, you got to have a base to go with it. People have to be interested in it, so... But I guess the way they did it was real dirty, like they did it behind people's backs, and it sounds like maybe there was some animosity. That is how the USPA started. The people that started the USPA were not happy with the way the USAPL was holding their meets and the way they were running their organization, so they started their own, and they wanted, you know, I think it had to do with wanting the biggest and best lifters, and unfortunately what comes with that is the use of PEDs, which is a big old, well, you know, you guys know how it works. Well, if you start a federation that's untested, with the whole point being to bring all those awesome lifters over and, you know, have shows that are fun and that people want to watch, you know, the way the USAPL runs their meets, they're kind of like the Olympics. You know, they take everything super serious. And my one criticism of this last meet I was at is that it was a mixed meet, so they had us, the untested, with the tested people, and we were lifting at the same time. And it was an interesting group dynamic, because what I caught on to was there was a lot of animosity from the natural lifters when the untested lifters were going. Even though, to be like, especially if you're an older athlete, being untested does not necessarily mean you are taking steroids. It could be something as simple as just being on doctor-prescribed hormone replacement therapy, which is a real thing for lifters over the age of 40, but unfortunately, they do not accommodate them in a tested division, so they have to lift an untested. The point I'm trying to make is, there's people make assumptions. You know, they assume that, like, if a guy outlifts them, it's just because he's on a ton of steroids and he didn't do years of training. They don't know his history. Like, for me, I was tested until the age of 45, and I had the national records at the age of 45. No, that was in 2016. I had the national records, but regardless, I was a high-end athlete at the top of my weight class, and I was 100% strict, hardcore natty. So, and then you make that jump over into, you know, I get on TRT, and then, of course, you guys know the rest of the stuff. All of a sudden, everything's because I did steroids. Okay, yeah, you're right. I haven't been training my whole life and competing for the last decade plus. I just, you know, decided to hop on drugs, and now I can deadlift 600 pounds for reps. Yeah, okay. But that's what they think. That's what they think. There's a lot of misconceptions about it. Now, am I saying I care what they think? No, everybody's entitled to their opinion, but when you get those two mixed together, there could be a little bit of friction, and I could tell that not everybody was happy to be in the same room with certain people. And the other thing I noticed is with those, with the tested meats, is they're very, they get like a arrogance to them, a sanctimony. They treat it like the Olympics. It's very quiet. There's nobody cheering. Everybody's just sitting there staring at the lifters, and we're all like, "Make some noise, motherfuckers!" You know, like get everyone going. You know, it's like we're supposed to be having fun out there, people. So it was interesting. That was interesting. I'm hoping that if I have a say in it and I can get my hands into the state chair position, and we can start bringing meats back to Nevada and get the interest sparked in the untested division again. We'll get some of those the way it was. It was a party back before COVID, man. I'm telling you, I miss those days. That's what we need. We need to spark a little bit of life back into this stuff. But to circle back to what's going on with the meat in October, as far as I can tell, it's canceled. Like, there is no meat, so I will not be competing. And if that is the case, well, you can see what I'm doing here. I'm painting Warhammer Hammer figurines because I'm recovering. I think today it's been long enough where I'm going to start doing some light lifting, but what I'm going to do is I'm going to go into a conditioning block, which is like lower rep, higher weight stuff, get my body healed, get strong. And I'm either going to start making coaching videos, or I don't know. I'm going to focus on boxing, that's for sure. I'm going to lift to get physically capable. Like, I'm not necessarily high-end one-rep max strength, but I want to be strong all around. You know, functional strength, if that means anything. But now, don't get me wrong, I'm still going to lift heavy. Like, I don't want to be, like, I just want to be that guy that can bench 315 in the gym for reps, and everybody looks over and goes, what the hell's up with this guy? You know, I love that. I'm not going to let that go. So, I don't know. I don't know which direction I'm going to take this channel now. If you guys express enough interest in my gaming and my artwork, which I'm going to continue to do, I think I'm going to make a second channel. I've noticed the last video I did, I got a bunch of dislikes but no comments, which would suggest that the dislikes were from the people that follow my channel. So maybe you're not interested in this stuff, and if that's the case, that's totally cool, man. I kind of just decided to start doing this one day, and I threw it out there, and you guys have been following me for the last 4 years. This is something new, and if you're not into it, it's like I completely understand that. But if that's the case, do me a favor. If you're gonna dislike my video, like, leave a comment. Let me know. Let me know what you don't like. Help me out. Like, it would be immensely beneficial if you would tell me what it is you specifically dislike when you hit that little button. And I don't think it's random people, like, because my channel's not big enough where it's being put out there for people to watch. It's got to be my followers. So yeah, let me know. Help me out. I'm here for you guys, damn it. And then, you know, that brings it around to, if there's something you want me to start doing, you want me to start doing coaching videos or nutrition, or we're going to start going to the, now that it's cooling down, we're still going to start going to the range more. So there's going to be some more Second Amendment stuff coming up. It's just been too hot, man. It's so hot in the desert. Holy crap. You don't get out there at 5 in the morning and it's dark. You know, what are you going to... So now that it's cooling down, and it's going to be beautiful in the high desert, man, I can't wait. Maybe there's some camping trips coming up. Of course, then I'll probably be freezing my butt off, so I don't know. Pick your poison. If you're watching the video, this is that big paintbrush. Is what's called the dry brush. You can use makeup brushes for it too. What you do is you want to get the paint loaded in there pretty good, but then you want it to be to where it's basically dry. It barely you can see it on your skin. And then you just lightly do the edges. And that's a really good way to quickly add dimensions and edge detailing to any model without having to take the time. Like, if maybe you don't have the fidelity to do edge painting, or maybe you don't have the skill level, or you haven't practiced, dry brushing is a really good way. And of course now I'm adding detail, so I've almost got these done. One of the things I didn't show in this video, after I got done filming, I hadn't finished the bases yet, and I use this what's called weathering set, And what I'll do is I'll like dust on this black to the exhaust or to the muzzles of firearms. And this here I can add rust to the metal a little on the undercoat. And then once I got that looking, I'll hit it with a little bit of clear coat to keep it in place. You gotta be careful with this stuff. The problem with this clear coat is if you go too heavy on it, it makes the paint look really thick, and it almost ruins out the good work you've done. So you gotta really go easy with this stuff. I would almost maybe recommend either getting one specifically for plastic models or dry brushing it on, or brushing it on, like getting a mat and brushing it. But this works okay too if you know how to use it. I think the last video I was touching on the Warhammer, what was it, Space Marine 2, and the mini outrage from the LGBTQ plus community. From what I understand, it's had like a couple 100,000 players concurrent on Steam, and the game's been kicking butt. So we've had a bunch of games come out in there. I think we're finally getting past all this woke crap, and it really warms my heart. It's not that I always keep telling people, it's like, I'm not anti anything. I want everybody that wants to play, and I will play with you. I just don't know why you feel like you have to have the need to change everything. Like, why can't we just leave it alone? And it looks like a lot of people are agreeing with me, so it's kind of good to see that. Any of you guys catch that debate with President Trump and Kamala Harris? I haven't commented on that because I just think, God, they've taken... it's almost not even worth my time. Like, everything's curated and fake, and people are going to believe what they want to believe. And unless you actually watch the whole debate, the little snippets that you're going to get on the news are just... they're just taken out of context, and it just, I don't know, the whole thing seems like a joke to me. So maybe I'll make a video on that. But until then, I'm going to get busy. I'm going to start working out here, and then I'm going to go pick my kids up from school, and then we're going to go box. Leave some comments and let me know what you guys think. If you guys like this stuff, I'll keep doing it. Believe me when I tell you, I got probably a good year or two worth of models to paint, so we'll have plenty of content. Let me know. I love you guys. I'll see you on the battlefield.